Today we're going to talk about the reasons that I invest in Bitcoin, why I'm involved with Bitcoin, why I think you should get involved with it, and why I'm so negative in my videos on it despite the fact that I invest in it, because so many of you have made clear to me just how depressing I can be and how I can slaughter people with the truth and the harsh realities of Bitcoin. So I figure now might be a good time to explain that and take a step back and explain why I'm part of the Bitcoin movement in the first place. First and foremost, I do recommend that everybody check out the talks done by Andreas Antonopoulos, especially if you're sort of down in the dumps after watching one of my videos, because he is the king of why you should get involved with Bitcoin and why it's such an interesting technological innovation, especially the meeting he did with the Senate of Canada a few years back. It's kind of a lengthy meeting, but it goes through every possible question you can imagine associated with Bitcoin. You know, how secure is it? How do we deal with terrorist funding? Is it going to be something that changes how we view finance, or is it just a fad? So on and so forth. And he breaks it out in a fairly layman way because obviously a lot of these senators, even though that was like, I believe it was like their 10th meeting on blockchain, they really still at that point, a lot of them didn't fully understand it. So he really broke it out in simple terms. I recommend that you check it out. He's very good at explaining why Bitcoin is so interesting. When I personally first got into Bitcoin, I read and I read and I read, just like so many people do when they first learn about Bitcoin and the blockchain technology. It's exciting. You just think about all the ways it can change existing industries, and even if you don't think about how it will change existing industries, it's just exciting thinking about a truly decentralized application or platform or peer-to-peer payment network or whatever the application is. It's just interesting thinking about something that's truly decentralized. However, when you sort of dive down this rabbit hole of learning about Bitcoin, it takes you down this one-way path. You know, when you listen to Andreas and other Bitcoin opinion leaders, it's really difficult to imagine a world where Bitcoin fails because obviously these people have to have faith. And it's very difficult to imagine where Bitcoin doesn't become the world currency, where it doesn't replace fiat, where it doesn't become an attractive alternative that everybody wants to use, where it doesn't become a superior PayPal, so on and so forth. But all of those things are actually very realistic possibilities. It is possible for Bitcoin to fail. And if you stay too much within the Bitcoin community, it's very difficult to accept that as a reality. In my opinion, the reality is that Bitcoin is a very long way off from what a lot of people envision for it. You know, the technology is not ready for the level of eyeballs that are currently watching it, and the majority of those people aren't even using Bitcoin, and we're at network capacity. You know, we've hardly seen anything yet in terms of regulations and laws or clarity from the IRS or the SEC. We don't know how businesses are going to respond to Bitcoin once it becomes a more tangible threat. At this point, it's very esoteric in nature. PayPal, in the latest quarter, this is third quarter of 2017, processed on average roughly 21 million transactions per day. And to put that into perspective, Bitcoin only processed roughly 250 to 350,000 transactions per day. And the majority of those transactions weren't even for commerce. They were actually for sending Bitcoin between exchanges to purchase other altcoins or basically used to store in wallets rather than purchase goods and services. When we think about it that way, businesses really haven't been threatened by Bitcoin, and it'll be very interesting to see how they respond as Bitcoin scales larger and larger. We also know that governments are starting to work on state-backed cryptocurrencies, which will obviously be much faster and easier to understand than Bitcoin due to their centralization, and most people are obviously familiar with what a fiat currency is because that's what they use every day. All those uncertainties sort of lead to the negativity that you see in my videos because I have to ground price with reality. You know, the nature of new technologies is that people's visions tend to accelerate far beyond where reality currently is. And they also tend to accelerate how long it's going to take to make a vision reality. A perfect example of that is the dot-com bubble. You know, people realized what the internet could do back in the late 1990s. They knew what it could do, but we were nowhere near close to the point where it was actually, where the infrastructure could actually support the ideas that people had. We see recently where people are jumping on investing in AI and the Internet of Things, and those things have sort of been bubbling under the surface for a very long time now, and yet they're not really blowing up yet, especially Internet of Things. We're still in the infancy of that technology. How long is it going to take before we see the world filled with level 5 autonomous vehicles? These are fully autonomous vehicles. Elon Musk is probably going to give you a fairly short time frame, but the reality is that it's probably going to take a lot longer than expected, and I've seen estimates vary from as wide as 10 years all the way up to 100. The point is, Bitcoin has a very long way to go, and my role as an influencer, which I've somehow become, is not to talk about what Bitcoin can do. There's already tons of sources that are out there that can provide you with that information. It's not to sell you a pipeline dream or to reinforce your opinions that you already have. I'm here to challenge your assumptions and to force you to think critically about this asset, about this cryptocurrency that you have placed your hard-earned money into, money that you've actually put labor into earning. It's to force you to take a step back and to consider other possibilities than Bitcoin goes to the moon, where one Bitcoin is equal to one Lambo. Yes, we're all going to be very successful if that happens, but you have to be prepared in the event that it doesn't. And that's sort of what I'm here to do in a lot of ways, is to answer the question of, are you paying the right price for this asset? And if you're not, how can you mitigate risk? One of the first lessons that a lot of students have to learn when it comes to investing in stocks is that all blue chips are going to sound like phenomenal companies to invest in. Whether it's Amazon, Netflix, Disney, Coca-Cola, so on and so forth, all of these companies, it's very difficult to argue against them as brands. And the analogy I like to provide students is that you have to think about investing just like you would shopping for a new car. If you have a list of features, maybe you prioritize mileage, maybe you prioritize aesthetics, or how fast it can clock 0 to 60, if you hand that list of features to a sales rep at a dealership, he's going to find you a car that does all of those things very quickly. And it's not going to be difficult because you're missing one important criteria, and that's price. Right? You don't just go in and hand him a list of criteria and say, find me a car, and I'll pay whatever price. You never pay sticker price, and you're never even going to invest in certain models because they're way overpriced. You don't want to be like Mrs. Lanningham from West Wing. Great show, by the way. You always question the price, and you always question the valuation of any asset that you invest in. I'm here to make you question the price that you pay for Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in what Bitcoin can do, especially in the future. I like Bitcoin because it's going to eventually force all of the existing fintech companies to get their shit together so that they're able to improve their business solutions, especially as Bitcoin gains in market share. I like Bitcoin because it enables interesting applications that go beyond peer-to-peer payments. I like Bitcoin because it provides an alternative option for those that want to exist outside of a system where monetary policy has sort of pushed to the edges of what society is willing to accept. I mean, negative interest rates. And it's not just negative real interest rates, it's negative nominal interest rates as well, which is absurd in my opinion. I like Bitcoin because the community has kept it alive throughout all of the struggling time periods that it has had, chasing ideals that the corporate world and the government cannot chase after just by nature. But my channel is not focused on any of those things. My channel is centered on investing, trading, speculation, and the emotions associated with the market. And that's a totally separate world from the technology and providing solutions. That's what Andreas is there for. You'll notice that he doesn't talk about price all that often, because that's not his expertise, and it's not what he's interested in. He's interested in how Bitcoin can change the world, not as to whether or not it's a good financial investment. In fact, he will tell you it's not an investment at all. And if you're investing in Bitcoin as a speculative asset, you're looking at it the wrong way. So what is very important to realize is that When I say that Bitcoin is a bubble, or that it's priced incorrectly, or that it's not providing the value compared to what it's being priced at, that has nothing to do with whether or not I like Bitcoin. And it's very important for you to be able to separate those two worlds, the world of investing and the world of providing solutions in a future. If you can't separate those two, then you have to be very careful about putting your financial future into Bitcoin, because you're going to be blinded by your ideologies and you might put your own financial independence at risk. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I've been posting my content on Steemit over the past month or so, and I've decided that starting today, I will respond to most comments on any new Steemit post. Obviously, I'll still be posting here on YouTube and everywhere else, but it's very difficult for me to keep up with the comments on YouTube. I get over 1,000 comments per video at times, so I figure it might be a little bit easier for me to keep up on there. So I will respond to your comment guaranteed if it is relevant to the topic at hand. When I say I will respond to most comments, I'm not going to respond to the comments that say, what's your opinion on XYZ coin? What is the exact size of your portfolio? How many Bitcoin do you have? Those types of questions, obviously, I'm not going to answer, but if it's relevant to the video, relevant to the topic at hand, I will respond to it, guaranteed. And so if you want to interact with me, make sure that you check out my Steemit page. Otherwise, I will continue to interact with you here on YouTube, just mostly the top comments, though. I'm not going to be able to read all of your comments, so if you want a guaranteed chance, go check out my Steemit. Otherwise, leave a like, comment, and subscription, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.